I consider this utterly disloyal, Ms. Vance said. Her voice was sharp, like cracking ice, as she stared at me from behind the fortress of her imposing mahogany desk. After everything Apex Marketing Solutions has done for you, Chloe. I sat rigidly across from her, my knuckles white as I clutched my purse, trying desperately to conceal the tremor in my hands. The initial shock of being summoned to her office at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning had faded, replaced by a cold, heavy dread coiling in my stomach as the reality of the situation dawned. Ms. Vance, I started, trying to find my voice. No, she cut me off abruptly, her perfectly manicured crimson nail tapping sharply against a printed email lying on the desk between us. Don't even bother denying it. I have confirmation right here that you interviewed with Zenith Strategies last Thursday. You took a half day, didn't you? A dental appointment, I believe was the excuse. My name is Chloe Miller. I am 31 years old, and for 6 demanding years, I have poured my professional life into Apex Marketing Solutions here in Boston, Massachusetts. 6 years of exceeding targets, tripling my client portfolio, bringing in millions of dollars in revenue, and earning the genuine respect of every major account we handle. But in this cold, sterile office, under Ms. Vance's accusing gaze, none of that seemed to matter anymore. Security will meet you at your desk, she stated flatly. You may collect your personal belongings, but your building access is revoked, effective immediately. Ms. Vance's voice remained chillingly devoid of emotion as she slid my company ID card across the polished surface of her desk towards me. I've already disabled your network and email access. The sheer injustice of it all burned like acid in my chest. 3 years. For 3 consecutive, grinding years, I had walked into this very office, armed with meticulously prepared presentations showcasing my quantifiable achievements, detailed market rate salary comparisons, and polite but firm requests for the raise I knew I deserved. 3 years I'd received the same tired excuses about tough budget years and unforeseen circumstances. Even as Ms. Vance herself announced record-breaking profits during our quarterly all-hands meetings. I took a slow, deliberate breath, forcing the air into my tight lungs, and pushed myself to my feet, instinctively straightening the lapels of my blazer. I understand, I replied, surprised at the calmness in my own voice. Ms. Vance looked almost disappointed by my composure. Perhaps she had anticipated tears, or maybe desperate pleading. Instead, summoning every ounce of professionalism I possessed, I extended my hand across the vast expanse of her desk. I wish you and Apex continued success, I said, my voice remarkably steady despite the emotional hurricane raging inside me. She hesitated for a brief, awkward moment, a flicker of confusion crossing her features, before giving my hand a perfunctory, limp shake. As the uniformed security guard hovered uncomfortably near my workstation while I carefully packed my cherished family photos and 6 years' worth of accumulated desk plants into a standard-issue cardboard box, a surprising sense of calm washed over me. Concerned, sympathetic glances followed my movements, colleagues whispering behind cupped hands, but I managed a small, reassuring smile for those who met my eye. No drama, no public breakdown, just quiet dignity. Walking out through those imposing glass doors for the very last time, feeling the unexpected warmth of the April sunshine on my face, a profound realization struck me. Ms. Vance thought she was punishing me, dealing a final, crushing blow. She couldn't possibly have been more wrong. Just as I placed the heavy box into the trunk of my car, my phone vibrated with an incoming message notification. It was from Marcus Bell, the CEO of Zenith Strategies. Can we perhaps move our final discussion to this afternoon? Say, 2 p.m.? A small, genuine smile finally touched my lips. Ms. Vance truly had no idea what she had just set in motion. It's strange, almost jarring, how 6 years of dedicated professional life can be condensed and confined into a single, unassuming cardboard box. As I drove away from the Apex building, heading towards my Boston apartment, the box sitting securely in my trunk felt like both an ending and a beginning. My mind drifted back, replaying the events that had inexorably led to this pivotal moment. I joined Apex Marketing Solutions straight out of Emerson University, armed with a marketing communications degree and brimming with youthful ambition and a fierce determination to prove myself. Despite my qualifications, I started at the bottom, in an entry-level coordinator role, fetching coffee, meticulously organizing meeting notes. Doing whatever was asked. But I poured everything into it, working tirelessly, staying late without complaint, volunteering for the challenging, high-pressure projects nobody else wanted, and patiently building rapport with clients others had dismissed as too difficult or demanding. Within 2 intense years, I was successfully managing our mid-tier accounts. By year 4, I had earned the trust to handle Zenith Strategies, our largest and most prestigious client. Responsible for nearly 30% of Apex's entire annual revenue stream, Mr. Bell, Zenith's respected CEO, had personally requested me as their dedicated account manager after I had decisively stepped in during a major crisis, salvaging the situation when their previous representative had critically fumbled. "You're the only one, Chloe," he had told me during a follow-up call, "who consistently seems to understand exactly what we need, often before we even articulate it ourselves." From that point forward, the relationship between our two companies flourished, largely due to the trust and understanding we'd built. Zenith extended their contract year after year and significantly increased their marketing spend with Apex. Ms. Vance had certainly seemed pleased back then, basking in the reflected glory. "This demonstrates precisely the kind of initiative we value here at Apex," she had proclaimed publicly in a team meeting. Though that declared a value and never materialized in my paycheck or title. My first formal request for a raise came directly on the heels of that major success with Zenith. I presented clear performance metrics, undeniable revenue numbers, and industry salary benchmarks that unequivocally supported my case. "It's simply not in the budget this fiscal year, Chloe," Ms. Vance had explained, her expression a carefully practiced mask of regret. "But please know your significant contribution is duly noted." Reluctantly, I accepted her explanation then. The broader economic climate had been somewhat uncertain, and I reasoned I was still technically building my long-term portfolio. But the following year, after successfully onboarding 3 new major clients and receiving a prestigious industry award for a campaign I personally conceived and executed, the answer remained depressingly the same. "Next year will undoubtedly be better," she had promised, avoiding eye contact. "We just need to tighten our belts collectively for a little while longer." Meanwhile, Ms. Vance began driving to work in a brand new luxury SUV. And Apex leased an entire additional floor in our downtown Boston office building to accommodate planned expansion. Still, blinded perhaps by misplaced loyalty, I remained, clinging to the naive belief that sheer dedication and consistent results would eventually, inevitably, be rewarded. The third, and final, denial came just 6 months ago. It was immediately after I had successfully negotiated a remarkable 40% increase in Zenith's annual contract value, a huge win for Apex. "Your performance continues to be exceptional, Chloe," Ms. Vance had conceded, almost grudgingly. "However, we are currently making significant investments in upgrading our technological infrastructure this year. Perhaps we can revisit this compensation discussion again in the summer." Something inside me, worn down by years of empty promises and blatant undervaluing, finally fractured. That same evening, driven not by anger or a desire for revenge, but by a quiet resurgence of self-respect, I updated my resume for the first time in 6 long years. I knew, deep down, that I was worth far more than the constant stream of platitudes and perpetual denials I received at Apex. I just never anticipated Ms. Vance would discover my cautious job search before I had secured an offer and was ready to submit my professional notice. Back in my apartment, I set the heavy cardboard box down on my sleek kitchen counter and simply stared at it. The stark reality finally crashing down on me. I wasn't just between client meetings or enjoying a rare day off. I was, abruptly and unequivocally, unemployed. The sudden weight of that realization pressed down hard against my chest, making it momentarily difficult to draw a full breath. My phone suddenly rang, shattering the heavy silence, displaying my best friend Sophia's name on the screen. "I just heard," she said the moment I answered, her voice laced with concern. "Liam texted me what happened. Are you okay?" "Seriously, Chloe, what is going on?" Liam, Sophia's boyfriend, worked in IT support at Apex. Clearly, bad news traveled at lightning speed within those office walls. "I'm still processing it all, Sophia," I replied honestly, sinking heavily onto a nearby kitchen stool. It all happened so incredibly fast. It's completely, outrageously unfair, Sophia declared, her voice rising sharply with indignation on my behalf. Everyone at Apex knows you're the sole reason Zenith Strategies has stayed with them for this long. Ms. Vance is just blatantly intimidated because you are infinitely better at that job than she ever was, even in her prime. There was undoubtedly some uncomfortable truth nestled within Sophia's furious assessment. Ms. Vance had indeed been Apex's star account executive before climbing the ladder into management. Many of us on the team suspected she deeply missed the client-facing recognition and the inherent power dynamics, often inserting herself unnecessarily into my strategic meetings with Mr. Bell and the Zenith team. The worst part, Sophia, is the calculated way she did it, I said, feeling a fresh wave of hot anger surge through me. Accusing me of disloyalty, making it sound like I'd committed some act of corporate treason simply by exploring other opportunities after being repeatedly denied advancement for 3 solid years. It's unequivocally her loss, Sophia replied firmly, her conviction unwavering. And honestly, Chloe, maybe, just maybe, this is actually for the best. You have been so incredibly undervalued and overlooked there for far too long. She was right, of course. Rationally, I knew that. I had remained at Apex primarily out of a deep sense of loyalty to my clients and the colleagues who had become friends. Not because it was objectively the optimal choice for my own career trajectory, but being fired so publicly, so humiliatingly, escorted out by security like some kind of common criminal, that stung deeply and painfully. My phone emitted a soft beep, signaling an incoming call waiting. The caller ID displayed Marcus Bell's name. Sophia, I really need to take this, I said quickly. It's Mr. Bell from Zenith. Go. Absolutely, take it. Call me the second you're done, she urged before hanging up. I took another deep, steadying breath and answered the call, trying to sound composed. Chloe? This is Marcus Bell. I just heard through the grapevine what transpired at Apex this morning, he said, dispensing with the usual pleasantries. Are you perhaps available to come in and meet with us today? I'd very much like to accelerate our ongoing conversation. My heart began to pound against my ribs. Yes, I confirmed, my voice surprisingly clear. Yes, I can be there at 2 p.m. Excellent. And Chloe, he added, his tone reassuring. Please don't overly concern yourself with what happened this morning. Sometimes these unexpected disruptions have a peculiar way of working out for the absolute best in the end. After hanging up, I caught my reflection in the dark surface of the kitchen window. The woman staring back at me didn't look defeated or broken, she looked liberated. Set free. I showered quickly and changed into my sharpest power suit, the navy blue one I usually reserved for pitching major new clients. As I meticulously applied my makeup, focusing on the familiar, calming ritual, a strange sense of profound calm settled over me. Ms. Vance clearly believed she had punished me, perhaps even professionally destroyed me, by firing me so abruptly and publicly. In reality, she might have unwittingly done me the biggest favor of my career. That morning had been undeniably humiliating, a gut-wrenching experience. But it had also been incredibly clarifying. I had poured my loyalty, my creativity, and countless unpaid overtime hours into Apex Marketing Solutions. In return, I had been consistently undervalued, repeatedly overlooked, and ultimately discarded like yesterday's news. Whatever the future held, whatever happened next, I knew one thing with unshakable certainty. I would never again pour my best efforts, my passion, my dedication, into people or organizations incapable of recognizing my true worth. It was time to step fully into my own power. The Zenith Strategies headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek, gleaming glass tower dominating the Boston skyline. It stood in stark contrast to Apex's dated, somewhat dreary office space, with its drab beige walls and aging, mismatched furniture. Zenith embraced a thoroughly modern aesthetic, expansive open-plan workspaces designed for collaboration, strategically placed quiet pods for focused work, and floor-to-ceiling walls of windows offering breathtaking panoramic views of the city and harbor. As the elevator smoothly ascended towards the 30th floor, I mentally rehearsed my talking points for the upcoming meeting. I needed to explain my sudden, unexpected availability without sounding bitter or resentful about my abrupt departure from Apex. Maintaining absolute professionalism was paramount, especially when navigating uncomfortable, potentially fraught situations. The elevator doors whispered open, revealing Mr. Bell himself, waiting patiently in the elegantly minimalist reception area. "Chloe," he greeted me warmly, a genuine smile crinkling the corners of his eyes as he extended his hand. "Thank you so much for coming in on such incredibly short notice." Mr. Bell was likely in his early 50s. With distinguished salt and pepper hair and a well-earned reputation throughout the industry for being both exceptionally brilliant and remarkably fair, qualities I had come to deeply appreciate during our 3 years of working together while I managed the Apex account. "I sincerely appreciate the flexibility, Mr. Bell," I replied, meeting his firm handshake with one of my own. "It has certainly been an unexpected day. Let's talk in my office," he suggested, gesturing for me to follow as he led the way through the vibrant, bustling workspace. Several Zenith employees whom I recognized from our previous account work offered friendly waves or acknowledging nods as we passed, a small gesture, but it felt welcoming. Mr. Bell's corner office, while spacious, was notably more modest and functional compared to Ms. Vance's ostentatious showpiece back at Apex. More importantly, it felt infinitely more welcoming. With comfortable armchairs arranged thoughtfully for collaborative conversation rather than unilateral intimidation. "Coffee," he offered graciously, gesturing towards a high-end espresso machine humming quietly in the corner. "Please, that would be wonderful." Once we were comfortably settled with steaming mugs of fresh coffee, Mr. Bell got straight to the point. Respecting my time and the likely turmoil of my morning, "I received a rather curt phone call from Eleanor Vance this morning," he began, his expression carefully neutral. "She informed me, quite abruptly, that you would no longer be handling the Zenith Strategies account effective immediately, and that she herself would be personally overseeing our business until a suitable replacement could be assigned." I simply nodded, keeping my own expression impassive despite the small, involuntary flare of anger that ignited within me. Of course, Ms. Vance would immediately try to seize control of their largest, most profitable client herself. "What Ms. Vance doesn't know," Mr. Bell continued, leaning forward slightly, his gaze direct, "is that we at Zenith were already growing increasingly concerned about the overall health of our relationship with Apex Marketing Solutions." This genuinely surprised me. "Concerned?" I asked, unable to mask my confusion. But the results from the latest campaign significantly exceeded all projections, by nearly 23%, if I recall correctly. "The results were indeed excellent," he readily agreed, offering a small smile. "Primarily because of your dedicated work and strategic insights, Chloe. However, we've observed some troubling changes at Apex over the past year or so. Noticeably delayed responses on routine matters, inconsistent quality control from team members other than yourself, and frankly, a growing sense that Apex might be taking our continued business somewhat for granted." He set down his coffee mug carefully and leaned forward, his expression serious now. "Approximately 3 months ago, our executive board formally suggested we begin actively exploring potential alternative marketing partners. I personally resisted that suggestion, primarily because of the strong, productive working relationship we had established specifically with you. You have consistently demonstrated a nuanced understanding of our brand identity and complex business needs that goes far beyond the typical, often superficial, client-agency dynamic." My mind raced, trying to process the implications of his words. Was he actually saying what I thought he might be saying? "When you discreetly reached out to inquire about potential opportunities here at Zenith a few weeks ago," Mr. Bell continued smoothly, "it honestly felt like rather perfect, serendipitous timing. But I need to be absolutely clear about something, Chloe. We were never, under any circumstances, planning to actively poach you from Apex. We respect professional ethics and boundaries far too much for that kind of maneuver. We were fully prepared to wait patiently until you had secured an offer and tendered your proper, professional notice at Apex. I was planning to give 2 weeks' notice," I stated quietly, feeling it was crucial he understood my intentions once I had a firm offer in hand. Mr. Bell smiled warmly. "I absolutely believe you, Chloe. Your inherent professionalism is precisely one of the key reasons we are having this conversation right now. Ms. Vance's unfortunate decision this morning simply served to significantly accelerate our existing timeline." He reached across his desk, opened a sleek folder, and slid a single document across the smooth surface towards me. "This isn't an interview, Chloe," he stated plainly. Consider it a formal job offer, Director of Client Strategy. In this newly created role, you would be responsible for building and leading a dedicated internal team to strategically manage all of Zenith's external marketing partnerships and crucial agency relationships. I glanced down at the offer letter, my eyes scanning the details, and my breath hitched sharply in my throat when I saw the proposed salary figure. It was nearly double what I had been earning at Apex, significantly more than I would have even dared to ask for in my most recent summarily denied raise request. This is exceptionally generous, Mr. Bell, I managed, my voice slightly unsteady. It's the appropriate market rate for someone with your level of experience, proven track record, and demonstrable results. Mr. Bell corrected gently but firmly. Sometimes, Chloe, it takes leaving a detrimental situation to finally, fully realize what you are truly worth in the open market. The official offer letter lay on my kitchen table that evening, signed, sealed, and ready to be scanned and returned first thing in the morning. I had politely asked Mr. Bell for the evening to review everything thoroughly, a professional courtesy, even though we both knew, implicitly, that my answer was a resounding yes. Taking the time to thoughtfully consider major life decisions was a principle I adhered to, even when the path forward seemed blindingly obvious. My phone had been buzzing intermittently all afternoon with text messages from concerned former colleagues back at Apex Marketing Solutions. Word of my abrupt, security-escorted firing had evidently spread like wildfire, quickly followed by hushed rumors about my subsequent meeting at Zenith Strategies. I had responded briefly to a few messages from close coworkers, offering reassurance, but deliberately avoided getting drawn into the inevitable vortex of office gossip and speculation. A new text message popped up from Liam. FYI, Ms. Vance called an emergency all-hands meeting right after you left. Apparently told everyone you were terminated for a gross breach of company loyalty, and that everyone should remember that Apex rewards loyalty above all else. The staggering hypocrisy of that statement wasn't lost on anyone, Liam added dryly. I shook my head, a small, humorless smile playing on my lips. Ms. Vance was desperately attempting to make an example of me, to instill fear and reinforce her authority, but based on Liam's message, it sounded like her heavy-handed approach might be spectacularly backfiring. Another text arrived almost immediately, this one from Maya, the usually cheerful receptionist at Apex. She's been locked in her office frantically making calls all afternoon. Looks incredibly stressed. Guess someone's finally worried about losing the Zenith account. I didn't respond to Maya's message. There was surprisingly little satisfaction to be found in picturing Ms. Vance's distress, only a quiet, renewed certainty that I had absolutely made the right decision in seeking opportunities elsewhere. A company culture that demanded unwavering loyalty while offering practically nothing tangible in return wasn't a place I wanted to invest my talent or energy any longer. Suddenly, my phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar Boston number. Intrigued, I answered. Chloe Miller, a crisp, authoritative female voice inquired. Speaking. This is Catherine Reed. I sit on the board of directors at Apex Marketing Solutions. My stomach instantly tightened into a cold knot. Board members very rarely involve themselves directly in day-to-day employee matters. This was highly unusual. I understand there was an incident earlier today regarding the status of your employment, Ms. Reed continued smoothly, her tone carefully neutral. I would like the opportunity to meet with you tomorrow morning to discuss the situation further. It's possible Ms. Vance may have acted somewhat hastily in her decision-making process. So that was the angle. Ms. Vance, in her vindictive haste, had fired her most valuable client-facing account manager, the one holding the massive Zenith account together, likely without obtaining proper board approval beforehand. And now, Zenith Strategies, Apex's cash cow, was potentially on the verge of walking away. This proposed meeting wasn't about my welfare, it was pure, unadulterated damage control. I appreciate the call, Ms. Reed, I began, keeping my tone polite but unequivocally firm. But I should inform you that I have already formally accepted another position. A brief pause hung on the line before she asked, may I inquire where? With all due respect, Ms. Reed, I don't believe that would be appropriate for me to share at this particular time. Chloe, she persisted, her voice softening slightly, adopting a more conciliatory tone, if this situation is primarily about compensation, I assure you the board is prepared to revisit those previous conversations immediately. The board genuinely values your significant contribution to Apex Marketing Solutions. The irony was almost physically painful. 3 years of meticulously documented, consistently rejected requests for fair and appropriate compensation based on performance and market value. And now, only when their largest client was at risk, suddenly the board valued my contribution? It's not solely about the compensation, Ms. Reed, I replied honestly, finding a surprising clarity in the moment. It's fundamentally about respect. It's about recognizing an employee's true worth before they feel they have no other choice but to seek validation elsewhere. Before they already have one foot out the door. Perhaps we should discuss this further in person, she pressed gently. Tomorrow morning? We could meet for coffee. I considered her request for a moment. While I had absolutely zero intention of returning to the toxic environment at Apex, there was perhaps something to be gained from having this conversation, a measure of professional closure. I can meet you at 9 a.m., I agreed finally. But, just so we are perfectly clear, Ms. Reed, I added, leaving no room for misinterpretation. I have already signed a legally binding employment contract elsewhere. I am not coming to this meeting to negotiate a potential return to Apex. Understood, Ms. Reed said, though her tone conveyed a hint of skepticism, perhaps disbelief that I wouldn't jump at their belated offer. I will arrange for a quiet table at a cafe near your office. I'll text you the details. After hanging up, I poured myself a well-deserved glass of chilled white wine and stepped out onto my small apartment balcony. The spring evening air was cool but invigorating against my skin. The city lights of Boston beginning to twinkle and spread across the horizon as dusk gently settled. Tomorrow would bring a conversation I hadn't anticipated needing to have, but perhaps it was necessary after all. It represented a chance to articulate, calmly and professionally, precisely what had gone so wrong during my tenure at Apex, not just for my own sense of closure, but perhaps as constructive feedback that might, however unlikely, benefit the colleagues I was leaving behind. My phone buzzed softly with an email notification from Mr. Bell. The subject line simply read, "Welcome to the Zenith team." Whatever happened in the meeting with Ms. Reed tomorrow morning, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I wasn't looking back. Never again. The Apex Marketing Solutions reception area felt strangely alien as I entered it, not as an employee, but as an external visitor. Maya's eyes widened in surprise when she saw me approach the desk, her usual bright, professional smile faltering for a split second. "Chloe? You're here for the meeting with Ms. Reed?" she asked, her voice hushed. "That's right, Maya," I confirmed, signing the visitor logbook, another small, surreal moment in a day full of them. "Okay, I'll let her know you've arrived," Maya said, then leaned closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Listen, for what it's worth," she whispered quickly, "everyone here is talking about how completely wrong this whole thing was. Seriously, Chloe, you were the best of us." Her unexpected words, her simple act of solidarity, warmed me more than she could know. "Thank you, Maya. I really appreciate that." The short walk from the reception to the designated downtown cafe gave me a precious moment to center myself, to gather my thoughts and steel my resolve. I had dressed carefully this morning in a sharp, professional navy suit, not to impress Ms. Reed, but rather to remind myself, and by extension her, that I was approaching this meeting as an equal, as a respected professional, not as some dismissed, supplicant employee seeking redemption or a second chance. Catherine Reed was already seated at a discreet corner table when I arrived, a slim, elegant leather folder placed neatly in front of her. In her early 60s, with perfectly coiffed silver hair cut in a precise, stylish bob, she exuded the quiet, unwavering confidence of someone accustomed to making high-stakes, million-dollar decisions before most people had finished their first cup of coffee. "Ms. Miller, thank you for coming," she said smoothly, rising gracefully to shake my hand. "Please, have a seat." I half expected Ms. Vance to join us, perhaps lurking nearby, but as Ms. Reed settled back into her chair, it became clear this was intended to be a private, one-on-one conversation. "Smart move. I took the liberty of reviewing your personnel file yesterday afternoon," Ms. Reed began without preamble, opening the folder before her. 6 years of consistently excellent performance reviews, she noted, her gaze sweeping over the documents, steady. Documented growth in your client account portfolio, and, significantly, 3 separate formal requests for salary adjustment, all of which, I see, were denied by Ms. Vance. She looked up then, her gaze sharp and analytical, meeting mine directly across the small table. I must confess, I was not previously aware of this specific pattern of requests and denials. This surprised me slightly. I had always assumed major compensation decisions, especially for senior roles, required some level of board oversight or approval. Major corporate compensation restructuring requires board approval, yes, Ms. Reed clarified, as if reading my thoughts. But departmental management, such as Ms. Vance, possesses a certain degree of discretionary authority within established budgetary parameters. Ms. Reed's expression remained carefully neutral, professionally guarded, but her tone held a subtle undercurrent of disapproval. It appears Ms. Vance has been operating with a significant degree of autonomy in these matters. I see, I responded quietly. What I do not see, she continued, her eyes narrowing slightly as she scanned the file again, is any formal documentation justifying your summary termination yesterday. To my knowledge, there is no existing Apex company policy that explicitly prohibits employees from engaging in exploratory interviews with other organizations. I kept my own response measured, refusing to take the bait. The specific term used by Ms. Vance was disloyal, I offered calmly. Ms. Reed's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched almost imperceptibly. An interesting choice of words, Ms. Miller, given the documented circumstances. She closed the folder decisively. Ms. Miller, Chloe, I'll be direct. The board would like to formally offer you immediate reinstatement at Apex Marketing Solutions. This offer includes the adjusted compensation package you requested in your most recent review, plus an additional 10% increase. And the elevated title of Senior Account Director, effective immediately. The offer was undeniably attractive, significantly better than anything Ms. Vance had ever been willing to even consider discussing. But it came 3 long years, countless hours of uncompensated overtime, and one deeply humiliating public dismissal too late. That is indeed a generous offer, Ms. Reed, I acknowledged politely, maintaining my composure. However, as I mentioned during our phone call yesterday evening, I have already formally accepted a position elsewhere. At Zenith Strategies, I presume? Ms. Reed stated it as fact, not a question. I neither confirmed nor denied her assumption, choosing instead to maintain professional boundaries regarding my new employer. My new role commences this coming Monday. Ms. Reed studied me intently for a long moment, perhaps assessing my resolve. Ms. Vance has expressed significant concern that Zenith Strategies may choose to reconsider their contractual relationship with Apex. Given your sudden departure, and there it was, laid bare, the true, unvarnished reason for this hastily arranged meeting. Not genuine concern for how I, a loyal 6-year employee, had been treated, but cold, hard fear of losing their single largest, most profitable client. That, Ms. Reed, would ultimately be a business decision for Zenith Strategies to make, I replied carefully, choosing my words with precision. Indeed. Ms. Reed gave a slight nod, seeming to appreciate, or perhaps simply accept, my professional discretion. One final question, Chloe, if I may. Looking back, what, if anything, could Apex Marketing Solutions have done differently to retain you? The question was unexpected, but strangely welcome. I took a moment, gathering my thoughts, wanting to provide an honest, constructive answer. Recognize my actual value, Ms. Reed. Before I felt compelled to look elsewhere to find it, I said simply, meeting her gaze directly. Loyalty, in any meaningful sense, must work both ways. Apex expected unwavering commitment and dedication from me, while repeatedly, demonstrably signaling that I wasn't worth investing in. That fundamental dynamic creates an unsustainable, and ultimately untenable, imbalance. Ms. Reed nodded slowly, thoughtfully. A fair and candid assessment, Ms. Miller. She stood then, extending her hand across the table once more. Thank you for your time and your candor this morning. Whatever your next steps may be, I sincerely wish you every success. Walking out of that cafe, leaving Apex Marketing Solutions definitively behind me for the second and final time, I felt unexpectedly lighter, freer than I had in years. This meeting hadn't truly been about offering me a second chance. It had been about giving me an unexpected, final opportunity to reclaim my own narrative, to leave on my own terms, with my dignity and professional reputation fully intact. In a strange way, I'd been granted an unforeseen gift, the quiet satisfaction of closure. Monday morning arrived, buzzing with a potent mixture of nervous anticipation and genuine excitement. My new position at Zenith Strategies officially began today, and with it, marked the start of a brand new, promising chapter in my professional life. I arrived deliberately early, eager to settle into my new office, a spacious, actual office with a solid door and expansive windows overlooking the Boston skyline, a world away from the cramped, noisy cubicle I'd occupied at Apex despite my supposedly senior role. Mr. Bell had thoughtfully arranged for everything to be perfectly ready for my arrival, including a stylish welcome basket filled with gourmet snacks and company swag, and all my necessary technology seamlessly set up and waiting. Promptly at 9 a.m., he stopped by my office door to personally introduce me to my new team, 5 sharp, highly talented marketing specialists who would now be working under my direct leadership to strategically manage Zenith's diverse portfolio of agency relationships. The inherent irony of the situation wasn't lost on me for a single second. Just days ago, I was managing a single, albeit massive, client account. Now, I was positioned to oversee all of Zenith's external marketing partnerships, which would inevitably include managing whoever Apex ultimately assigned to handle the relationship from their end. Team, I'd like you all to meet Chloe Miller, our new Director of Client Strategy, Mr. Bell announced warmly to the assembled group. Many of you likely already know Chloe from her truly exceptional work managing our account while she was at Apex Marketing Solutions. We are incredibly fortunate to now have her considerable expertise and strategic thinking right here, in-house. After the initial introductions and a brief, productive team meeting to outline key priorities and immediate goals, Mr. Bell asked me to join him in the main conference room. There, I found several members of Zenith's senior executive team already gathered around the large, polished table. Before you dive headfirst into everything, Chloe, Mr. Bell explained, gesturing for me to take a seat. We wanted to get your valuable input on an important strategic decision currently under review. The company's chief financial officer spoke up first. Chloe, in light of the recent personnel changes at Apex, we are currently reevaluating the status of our ongoing relationship with them. As you know, their current contract is up for renewal next month. We highly value your unique perspective on this, added Zenith's chief marketing officer, nodding in agreement. You possess an unparalleled understanding of our specific needs and objectives, coupled with first-hand, in-depth knowledge of Apex's capabilities and, perhaps more crucially, their potential limitations. The opportunity was laid out before me, gleaming and tempting. I could have easily, justifiably, recommended terminating the relationship immediately, a swift, deeply satisfying form of professional revenge against Ms. Vance and the company that had so readily discarded me. The power to potentially deal a significant, perhaps even crippling, financial blow to Apex Marketing Solutions was sitting right there, squarely in front of me. No one in this room would likely question such a recommendation, given the circumstances. Business relationships, after all, ended every single day for myriad reasons. But that simply wasn't who I was. It wasn't who I wanted to be. Fleeting revenge might feel momentarily gratifying, but maintaining my professionalism, my integrity, would undoubtedly serve me far better in the long run. I believe we should evaluate Apex objectively, using the exact same rigorous criteria we would apply to any other potential agency partner. I stated carefully, choosing my words with deliberate neutrality. Historically, their creative work product for us has been generally strong, I acknowledged fairly. But consistency across the entire account team and proactive, reliable account management will absolutely be critical factors to closely consider moving forward. The email was officially sent at precisely 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning, exactly 1 week to the day after Ms. Vance had unceremoniously fired me from Apex Marketing Solutions. I hadn't orchestrated the specific timing, it wasn't some calculated move on my part. It was simply the moment Zenith's executive team finalized their decision after thoroughly reviewing detailed proposals submitted by 3 competing agencies, including a hastily assembled pitch from Apex. Mr. Bell had extended me the professional courtesy of allowing me to review the email before it was distributed. Although I had formally recused myself from participating in the final selection process to avoid even the slightest appearance of bias or personal impropriety, the message itself was impeccably professional, concise, and direct. After careful consideration of Zenith's strategies, evolving marketing needs, and strategic objectives moving forward, we have made the decision to transition our account portfolio to Horizon Digital, effective immediately. This decision reflects our company's shifting brand strategy and increasing focus on advanced digital requirements. Chloe Miller, our new Director of Client Strategy, will personally oversee the transition process and will serve as your primary point of contact for all related matters. We appreciate our past partnership with Apex Marketing Solutions and formally request the complete transfer of all relevant account materials and historical data by close of business this Friday. I couldn't help but imagine Ms. Vance's reaction upon receiving that email, the initial shock, perhaps disbelief, quickly followed by the dawning, gut-wrenching realization of the full consequences of her actions. Not only had she impulsively lost me, her most experienced and client-respected manager, but now, as a direct result, she had irrevocably lost Zenith Strategies, a flagship client representing nearly 30% of Apex's entire annual revenue stream. And the ultimate irony? I, the employee she had publicly humiliated and dismissed just 1 week prior, would be the very person professionally managing the complex transition process away from her company. The perfect, almost poetic, professional revenge had effectively fallen right into my lap, entirely without my needing to actively orchestrate or manipulate a single thing. I hadn't needed to resort to badmouthing Apex or subtly sabotaging the relationship during the review process. Apex's own internal shortcomings and Ms. Vance's demonstrated poor judgment, starkly highlighted by my abrupt departure, had ultimately done that for them. Later that afternoon, I received a LinkedIn connection request from Maya, the receptionist at Apex, quickly followed by a private message. Just wanted you to know, the office here is absolute chaos today. Ms. Vance has been locked in frantic, closed-door emergency meetings literally all day. Heard from Liam that at least 3 other senior account managers suddenly updated their LinkedIn profiles this afternoon. Guess karma really does work fast sometimes. I didn't reply immediately. There was no real need to gloat, no satisfaction to be gained from inserting myself into Apex's internal turmoil. Instead, I poured my energy into meticulously building my new team at Zenith, establishing clear processes, and focusing intently on the future. Quiet, undeniable success, I reminded myself, was always the best, most effective form of revenge. Later that evening, however, I did accept Maya's connection request, sending back a simple, gracious message. Thank you so much for your kindness and support during my time at Apex, Maya. Wishing you all the very best moving forward. Taking the high road, resisting the urge for petty retaliation, felt surprisingly, profoundly good. My new position as Director of Client Strategy at Zenith Strategies brought with it stimulating challenges and incredible growth opportunities one would never have encountered had I remained passively at Apex, endlessly waiting for recognition and validation that likely would never have materialized. Sometimes, the most potent revenge isn't something you actively pursue or vindicatively plot. It's simply the natural, inevitable consequence that unfolds when you finally choose to recognize and value yourself, especially when others demonstrably do not. Looking back on that tumultuous journey a year later, from the perspective of my fulfilling new role and rediscovered professional confidence, I realized that Ms. Vance, in her short-sighted attempt to punish me, had inadvertently given me the most precious gift imaginable, the forceful, necessary push I needed to step out of the shadows and finally discover my true, uncompromised worth. In the end, by choosing professionalism over personal revenge, I found something far more valuable and enduring: unwavering self-respect and the quiet courage to confidently claim the success I had always deserved.